I think that the language of culture is the most important thing. And so when you have the language or the vocabulary of food, it describes where you live, when you grew up, and also what surrounded you. I consider my legacy to be that of teaching. We have to teach those that come after us, the next generation, to ensure that our culinary history is known and appreciated, and that the more we learn about our foods, the more we will learn about ourselves.
The Molino has always been very important to most Mexican and Latin American communities because it's a way for people to have corn tortillas every day for their meals. So they would cook the corn at their house, bring it to their local molino where they would grind the corn for them, and they would take the masa home and make their homemade tortillas or tamales there at the house. The first step to the nixtamal process is receiving the corn. We receive the corn in our silo here. We take about 30,000 pounds of corn at a time. It takes roughly 4 to 6 weeks for us to empty out the silo and to get a refill. Our corn comes from La Crosse, which is just south of San Antonio. So it's all locally Texas grown grain. So our next step, we're gonna go ahead and use our pump system to bring the corn from the silo here into our corn cooking tank. So when we cook the corn, we use lime as our agent. Once our corn is filled up to the spot, we'll go ahead and move it into position where we'll fill it with water and we'll start the cooking process. So once we have the water into the corn tanks, we'll go ahead and start cooking the corn. This one I'm cooking here in the back. So we have the lime already in there, which is giving it that yellow tint, which is also going to help break down the shell of the corn, which is going to make it nice and soft when we actually grind it into the corn masa. So once the corn is cooked, we transfer the corn into our cooling tanks. Here the corn will sit for 12 to 24 hours as it cools down, gets more to room temperature. After the corn has cooled, we'll go ahead and move it over to our rinsing station. Where the rinsing station, we're going to remove that excess lime that has sat with the corn. So I'll go. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and rinse the corn. This is going to get all that excess lime off the corn and give it that natural sweet taste of the white corn. So next step, we'll go ahead and fill our hopper. Inside the molino, we have two 14-inch volcanic stones, which is going to grind the corn. As it falls into the bin, it turns into masa, which is going to be the Spanish word for dough. So as the corns come out, we'll go ahead and test it. Make sure it's nice and coarse for the tamales. now we have our masa here in our bin. The next step we'll do is we'll weigh it for the customers to their desired weight of poundage, and then they'll go ahead and take home the masa, and they'll prepare it themselves to make homemade tamales.
See you next year, right? Well, we just came back from the molino and brought this beautiful, beautiful masa. And look at this masa. Look at the color of it. Now, how do we get it from this to something we can spread on an hoja? Something like that. Well, first of all it is corn that's been soaked in lime, like I said, and boiled and then ground. So it's pure. It's pure, pure. So we got to add something that makes it taste good. It won't taste good just by itself. So first of all, I think what you want to add is some salt, right? What would you say? How much salt?
It's about 6 teaspoons of salt and a little bit of baking soda, right?
Oh, that's right. And why do we need the baking soda?
So you want it to have a nice little aerated leavening agent that's in that tamal. And we need to add some flavor in here.
So you add in the salt and the baking powder and you mix it up very, very well. Well, now we need to add what?
So we're gonna add some chile ancho puree.
Oh, okay. And this is beautiful. Look at that color. How did we make this?
So we boiled some chile anchos until they were nice and soft and pliable, and we took out the seeds and the stem and then put them in a blender with a little bit of fresh water.
Yes.
And then just pureed it till it's nice and smooth, and it kind of echoes the pork that's going to be in our tamal later.
So remember that. It's got to echo the flavors that you have in your tamales. So now, so that the tamal does not stick to the hoja, we want to make sure that it has some lard in it. Look at that gorgeous, gorgeous lard. And this is pure lard. See how it is? Where does this come from?
So you can get that at the molino, but you can also ask the butcher at your grocery store where you can find some fresh lard, but you don't really want to use Crisco or shortening just because it's got hydrogenated oils, and this is kind of a pure ingredient. So anytime you can get an ingredient this pure, it's nice to use. It goes great with the other localized flavors. So that's really what our ancestors did. They used what they had. So they used the corn that they had, they used the dried corn shuck that they had, and then they used the lard and then the pork.
And all of this has a rich history, thousands of years. So the color is getting there, isn't it?
Yes.
But it's not quite there. So what do I need to add to it?
So a little bit of chicken broth or pork broth, depending on what you're gonna fill your tamal with. So I like usually adding chicken broth, no matter if it's gonna have beef or pork, just because it's a nice neutral flavor, and so everything just stands out a lot better.
Hey, look at this. Isn't it getting good?
Coming together.
It's coming together. It's no longer this big, thick piece of masa that we got. We crumbled it up and we added all of the ingredients to it. But now the secret to making good masa for good tamales is that you have to knead it or amasarlo.
So with kneading, you're gonna actually develop gluten, like with flour. And amasar, we're really mixing in the ingredients and we're adding air into our masa, because you don't want a dense tamal once you finish up. So the masa is the most important ingredient in a tamal.
Oh, because that is the firm foundation. So the secret to a good masa is to have as much air put into it. Oh my goodness, it's getting there. But do you think it's red enough? I think it needs a little bit more, don't you think? And besides that, the flavor of this chile ancho is just, smell it.
I like chile anchos because they're a little bit sweet. Like a dried raisin almost. So
Yeah.
a nice meaty chili.
Look at that. Yeah, there you go. See how you, that's a good way to look at it. It's like adding jam to this. So now we're going to amasar the chili in there because we want a good color and we want a good consistency. So now we also have to taste it. We have to taste it because we have to know, is there enough salt in it? So, I think mine needs a little bit more salt. What do you think?
It's very good, but we could use a little more salt.
A little more salt never hurts anything, does it? So we'll just add more salt to it. And remember, it is to your taste. Do you see the masa coming together in amasando it?
About how long do you do this for usually?
Until I finish telling all my stories. So if I finish you can't over amasar. So the more you do it, all we're doing is putting air in it. And so you got to spread your legs apart, get those arms going, and start making the masa.
That's a good workout.
So try it there. Now beat it, get air in it. There you go, from the back to the front to the middle, and it's getting there. It's still different from this one. See how this one is not fluffy like that yet. So keep putting more air in it. Okay, and so we get our workout, and then we tell the stories of, hey, and the gossip, the chisme, that's so important. And doesn't it also encourage just talking and...
Absolutely, and getting together and spending the day together. And I always say, you pass down your family history through food, and food memories are some of your strongest memories.
That's
so
true.
Why not create these memories for your family?
That's so true. So true.
I think my masa's about done.
Let's see, how can you tell?
Well, it's spreading nicely. If this was my hoja, look at that.
Oh, I just learned something new. So you spread it on your hand. You know what I do? I get this piece and I put it on the back of my hand to see if it sticks, and it doesn't stick, so it means it has enough lard in it. But I love what you just taught me. So you spread.
That means it's going to spread nicely on the hoja, and then we'll be ready for our next step.
Oh, cariño, learning always can occur. Isn't that wonderful? I think a tamalada, a Gran tamalada of hundreds of people, or a tamalada in your home with just your family, has a very important function, and that is to teach the little ones, and to teach the teenagers, and to even teach us, the older generation, about what it is we're eating and why we're eating it and what we're eating.